11th standard zoology subject, chapter 1, part 2, need for classifications. Why do we need classifications? We come across many places where things are arranged in a specific categories. For example, supermarket. There are in supermarket many shelves will be there. You might have been seen that in that shelves can be seen as a rows, columns of groceries, cosmetics, toys, stationaries, snacks, rows, utensils. Utensils means toilet articles, the things which are used for the toilet article. That is because of utensils. You already study in 10th standard. If it is not arranged in a well organized manner, the customer and salespersons will waste a lot of time in finding an item. In same way, the libraries also will be arranged like this. If you want to take any textbook in the library, you can find a biological rows will be there, biological science, physical science, and physics and chemistry, max. Subject wise, they'll be arranged. Likewise, it is nearly impossible to study all living organisms. Hence, it becomes necessary to devise some means and methods to make this possible. And this process calls a classifications. Mark it 2 marks. What define classifications? Okay, mark it 2 marks. Here, the answer comes here after. The classification is a process by which things are grouped in convenient categories. What do you mean by convenient categories? Are suitable or easy categories. That is because it's convenient categories based on easily observable characters. Just mark it 2 marks. Important 2 marks classifications. And the scientific term is used for these categories called as a taxa. Okay, one word they'll ask you. The scientific term used for categories is called dash. They'll ask you. It's a plural taxa. Taxon is the one singular. That's why they're given here. The taxa indicates the categories at different levels. Levels, for example, kingdom Animalia. Okay, that is one of the classifications. Kingdom Animalia includes multicellular animals. You know what do you mean by multicellular animals? The animals which are made up of many cells. That is because of multicellular animals, such as reptiles, mammals, etc. Based on their characteristics, all living organisms can be classified into different taxa. These signs of classification is called taxonomy. Just mark it another 2 marks. Define taxonomy based on the characteristic from that to end of the taxa. Just mark it out. Define taxonomy. There is a many scientists they observe external and internal structure along with the development process and ecological information of organism are essential as they form basis for the taxonomic studies. Here, what are the going to we are going to learn the basic need for classifications. The basic need for classifications to identify and differentiate closely related species. Closely related species. We are going to identify and we are going to differentiate which are closely related to species of particular organisms. To know the variations among these species, to know the variations. What do you mean by variations? Variation means changes, a difference. That is we say as a variations among the species. Whatever the difference are there, we are going to identify. For that purpose, the basic need are essential. Basic need for a classification is essential. To understand the evolutions of species. What do you mean evolutions? Evolutions means the organisms which have come from ancient time to till the modern time. That is because of evolutions. For example, the human being come from monkey, we say. That's the evolutionary part. So, like that, that is to understand the evolutions of species. To create phylogenetic tree among the different groups. What do you mean by phylogenetic tree? As we have seen, just as I told you, the evolutions, that evolutions where we have to draw as a map, as a tree. For example, so one is species. There is one organism's name called as Archaeopteryx. That is one of the organisms we'll be studying in this 11th standard. That Archaeopteryx, that is one of the flying organisms which are come from flying bird, which are come from reptiles, which are come from reptiles. From the reptile, they modified and they get wings. So that is the Archaeopteryx evolution is the one reptiles one, and we have to draw this one as a tree, as a chart one. That is we saw called as a phylogenetic tree among the different groups. Next point, the conveniently study living organism. So these are the basic needs for classification. The next one is the one taxonomy and systematics. So taxonomy, it is a Greek word. Taxos means arrangement. Nomos means law. The science of arrangements of living organisms along with the classifications, descriptions, identifications, naming of organisms, which include all flora and fauna. What do you mean by flora? Flora means small plants we call as a flora. What do you mean by fauna? Small animals we call as a fauna, including microorganisms of the world. The word taxonomy was coined by Augustine Primus de Candolle, 1813. Just underline important one word. So taxonomy is a theoretical study of classifications with well-defined principles, rules of procedure. These are things. Aristotle is called as the father of taxonomy. One word, just underline. Aristotle is called father of taxonomy. And Carolus Linnaeus is the father of modern taxonomy. Mark it out. These are a very important one word. The next one is our systematics. Next one is the one systematics. Systematics means it's a Greek word. Systems, or we can say sequence. Sequence means arranging in order. That is your sequence. The objectives of taxonomy and systematics are very similar. You know what I mean by similar? The same things. Taxonomy and systematics are objectives are very similar. The goal is to classify organism with the stipulated rules. The aim is to classify the organism with the particular rules, that is because of stipulated rules. The main criteria of the systematics is identifying, describing, naming, arranging, preserving, and documenting the organisms. So apart from the above said features, evolutionary history of species also can be done with the systematics. What do you mean by evolutionary history of species? Just now we have discussed what is evolutionary. If you take on a particular examples, that examples of any one organism, that organisms, who's their ancestors, where do they have come, when did they have come, all this we are going to invent. That is we call as a evolutionary history of the species. And environmental adaptations. Environmental, how these organisms are adapted in particular environment. That is because of adaptations of environment. And interrelationship among species. Interrelationship among within the species, whether do they have any relationship. That is the use of studying systematics. With all these things are investigated in a systematics manner. There is some information bits. Carolus Linnaeus is the father of modern taxonomy. One word already you have seen, which are a system of which is the system of classifying and naming organisms. One of his contributions was development of a hierarchical system of classifications of nature. Today, this system includes 8 taxa. So domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Just underline this 8 taxa. The next one is history of classification. Next one is the one history of classifications. And early classifications of organisms were based on only two criteria, only two methods. In early The classifications of organisms are followed only two methods. One is beneficial or harmful animals. Okay, and an ancient classification system recognized an ancient in those days. So that's because ancient classifications. A system recognized only five animal groups. Only five animal groups. That is domestica, wild, creeping, flying, and sea animals. Earlier, the ancient classifications were done only five groups. Domestics means animals which live in our house. That is because domestic. Then wildlife animal, the animal which live in forest, and creeping lizards. Okay, and creep snakes. Okay, these are creeping ones. Snake, the lizard is just a creep with help of a claws, and flying birds and sea animals. So based on these groups only animals are classified, and was based classified initially. The classifications was based on organisms. Classifications based on organisms, fundamental characteristics such as habitats and morphological. In those days, the classifications were based on two fundamental characteristics, that is habitat and morphology only. What is habitat? Already you have studied. Study of living organism, that is because a habit. Which place do they live? That is because a habitat. And morphology means study of external structure, we call morphology. Based on this only, based on these two fundamental characteristics, the animals are being classified in the beginning. The next one, the topic Aristotle. How Aristotle's started his classifications, we are going to see. The year of 384 to 322 BC was the first to classify all animals in the history of Animalia. So Aristotle is the first person, first scientist classify the animals. That history of Animalia. He has written book Historia Animalium in Latin language. In that book, he has written how animals can be classified. He classified in this way. He attempted the basic classifications of all living organisms into plants and animals. So he just classified it, attempt plants and animals. The animals were classified based on locomotions. How animals are classified based on locomotions have been classified. Like walking. If animals are walking means it is a terrestrial one, we can say. And flying. If animals are flying means that is we say as a aerial. And swimming. If the animals are going to swimming, that is we call as a aquatic. Based on the presence and absence of blood also he has classified. First he has classified based on the locomotion. Second he has classified based on presence absence of blood. Presence and absence of blood in the animals he has classified. Let's see if they say as a based on presence or absence of red blood cells. Classify the animals into as enema with the blood. The animals which have blood, they call as enema. The animals which do not have blood, they call as anemia. Anemia, we say is that word comes from this anemia. Okay, so these are the Aristotle classifications, and he also classified further limitations. We'll see his limitation the next class. Just go through up to whatever so far we discussed. We have discussed the history of classifications up to Aristotle, and systematics. What is systematic? We are just classified. And what is taxonomic and systematics we have learned, and what are the basic classifications just we have learned. Just go through whatever we are seeing today. Just learn it today itself. If you have any doubt, you can contact me through WhatsApp. Okay, bye. Take care.